In this video, I'll be sharing a few tips and tricks that I use to enable me to get close enough to photograph birds at a nature reserve. Although my main preference for bird photography is to work from a hide, sometimes by far the best option is to quietly walk around a reserve in the early morning looking for birds that are within range for photography. Hopefully, some of the tips in this video may help you when photographing and videoing birds at your local reserves. So one of the problems that you have actually trying to photograph birds at a reserve or out on the countryside is getting close enough to them, because they're very wary of humans, and obviously a big long telephoto makes a lot of difference because it gives you that pulling power. One of the things that I would say is best to do is actually get up early in the morning when they're sort of singing, when they're more active, and then sort of they're easier to get close to. But often as not, you can hear them singing, but actually spotting them can be quite difficult, because often they will sing often in bushes, in cover and things like that. Now recently I've just been photographing nightingales, and I didn't get any video of them singing, but I got some nice stills. One of the problems with a lot of the early migrants that are coming back, things like whitethroats and particularly nightingales, is that you can hear them singing, but it's actually spotting them. At this particular location it's quite good because they're sitting up on the tops of this bramble bushes and things like that, so it's a case of just walking along here slowly looking to see where you can find a bird, and it's often as not sort of you'll hear them but you can't see them. So just stop and wait until you see them move. If they move in the vegetation where you can lock onto them, it makes it a lot easier. Nightingales are quite difficult. This is the 3rd or 4th of May now. They arrived back in the UK because they are summer migrants. They only come here to breed in the summer. And they do have a fantastic song, and I went to try and actually photograph them at a reserve called Fingering-Hoe Wick, which is quite near where I live. Very, very good reserve for photographing nightingales. But although I got some very nice stills of them, I just couldn't find one that would sit there, you know, in a good sort of position for me to video it. But I did get some nice stills. Now, often as not, it's best to photograph nightingales as soon as they return to the UK, because now the vegetation is starting to grow and it's very, very difficult to actually spot them or also get a clear shot of them. Having said that, a couple of weeks or so ago I got some quite nice shots of nightingales, so I'll show you those. But with this whitethroat that's here, because it's actually sort of, this is its patch, and I notice it flies a little bit up and down. In fact, it's over there now. And what's happening is it's flying up and down this particular patch, but it just comes back to a certain area. They do have certain posts, bits of vegetation, bits of bramble that they particularly like to land on and sing from. So I'll give this a little bit longer and show you the pictures. So what I've done here is I've moved further along this stretch here, and all along this stretch there's masses of bramble. There's also Alexanders all along here. It'd be nice to get a shot of a linnet or a whitethroat perched up on that, but so far I haven't been lucky. But this particular stretch has been very good for linnets, and I've got some in fact there's one there. Oh yeah, there's one there now. They don't seem to be taking any notice of me whatsoever, but they're landing on there's bits of bracken, bits of things like that, and there's bits of sort of vegetation that's sticking up out of the top of this stretch of bramble, and the linnets love to just land on those, have a little sing, have a good look around and that sort of thing there. So when you're walking along here and hand holding, it's not too much of a problem. With a tripod you've got to be a little bit more wary. The advantage of video is that it actually crops into the picture a bit more, so it gives you that little bit of extra reach that you get on a long lens, which is always an advantage, which means you don't need to be quite so close to them to actually photograph them. But the light's very changeable today, it's coming in and out of clouds, but I think I've got some nice footage and some nice shots today. So what I'll do is carry on along here and take some more pictures. I did get a shot 10 minutes ago. There was a sedge warbler came. It's in there again. Will be often not nest in reeds, but they do actually nest in sort of this bramble sort of stretch all along here. So I've got a nice shot of a nice video clip and some nice shots of a sedge warbler too. So that's a bonus. But it's been a fairly productive morning. So the important thing when you're walking along here is to walk very, very slowly, and just every now and again stop and wait and just look and see. Often not if they're singing, you don't actually see them if they're in amongst the vegetation. If you stop and wait and see any movement, and then you stand a good chance of actually sort of photographing one. So sometimes photography can really work out well and things just happen just how you want them. I had a linnet just sitting there nice and proud on a nice bit of vegetation, beautifully clean background, looked very, very photogenic. Initially I took some stills. It stayed there long enough for me to switch to video, so I started videoing it, and I videoed it for about a minute or so. Then I decided that I'd got the stills, I'd got the video, so what I thought I'd do would actually try to photograph it as it flew using Pro Capture. And literally as soon as I'd switched to C2, which is the setting that I have on the OM1 for Pro Capture, I half pressed the shutter button and then it just went, and I got a nice series, about 4 or 5 pictures where this linnet is flying away there. Sometimes things just work out nice and you can come away with some really good shots. Other times you go out there and I come back there and I hardly took a picture all morning, but today's been very, very productive. Photographing birds early in the springtime certainly makes locating them easier. At that time of year, male birds are trying to attract a female, so they'll often sing from higher up in a bush to firstly attract a female, as well as to stake out their particular patch. Even still, spotting a small bird in bushes and vegetation can be difficult, so I always carry a small pair of binoculars to assist in locating them. Hearing their song makes them easier to spot, and recognising their different birds' calls is also an advantage. Some photographers scare the birds by moving in too quickly, so it's always best to initially take a few pictures from further away and then move in gradually over a period of time to get a more frame-filling shot. No matter how slowly you approach, eventually the bird will fly, and this is where leaving enough space in the frame enables you to get a flight shot using Pro Capture. I think that rather than chasing a bird, it's best to observe it, see where its favourite landing spots are, and then wait for it to return to its favourite spot. In the springtime, when they're setting up their territories, they will often stay quite close to one area. So patience, standing still and waiting can lead to some good images. Once the leaves on the trees start to grow, it does become increasingly more difficult not just to spot the birds, but also to get a clear view without distracting twigs and vegetation obscuring the bird. Some photographers get very heavily into wearing camouflage gear. Personally, I'm not fully convinced that this is essential. I just wear ordinary unobtrusive clothing, and providing you do not wear anything brightly coloured, you should be okay. Obviously, having the right equipment is a huge advantage, and using the 150-400 125 extender on the ON Mark II, that means I can walk around a reserve taking handheld shots with ease. If I also want to shoot video, I must resort to using a tripod because there is nothing worse than unstable video clips. If trying to video them as they are singing, a rifle mic fitted with a dead cat to reduce wind noise is also another essential piece of kit. The one I use is a Rode shotgun mic. This helps to concentrate the audio recording in the bird's direction. One thing to look out for is rocks, branches or posts that have numerous bird droppings on. This is a clear sign that that branch or post is regularly used by birds. I shot this video footage of a grey wagtail near Dovedale in the Peak District. I observed that it kept returning to this rock, so it's just a case of settling down and waiting for it to return. Likewise, with this shot of a dipper, I noticed that this rock had numerous bird droppings on, so this was a good indication that birds regularly use that rock. Then it was just a case of sitting down and patiently waiting for it to return. On this occasion, I only had to wait about 5 minutes, and this dipper turned up. Getting close enough to photograph birds in the wild is not easy, but hopefully one or two of the tips that I've shown will help you get better images. Thanks for watching.